There's this class of thought that your other counterparts who are also contesting for the flagship are all over, but that you are nowhere, they are not hearing anything from you. What assurance will you give to people who think you can do the work? What assurance are you giving them that you are really...
Actually, my my other competitors, we are running around the country. I see we are having a general election. This is not a general election. We have only 210,000 delegates who are going to vote.
Okay.
And in the super delegates, there are only 101,000, less than 1,200 people. And we know all of them. So for me, it's not a razzmatazz of a big funerals and no. I go and talk to the people who have the power to vote. Everybody, it's not a secret. Everybody has their names and their telephone numbers and where they are. So I'm going there. I mean, these 3 months that I've been out of the office, I've been going around very quietly talking to them. So you, as a journalist, you may not know. I don't come and tell you that I'm going here or there. But I've been very busy. My schedule is totally different. It's not sitting in one place, an office every day, 9 to 10 o'clock at night. But I'm talking to the delegates. I'm engaging the delegates. And I've been engaging them for quite some time.
How do you see the super delegates before even the flag bearer?
The constitution of our party says if there are more than 5 people picking the forms and so on, then there has to be a super delegate where 5 people are chosen. And this is chosen by the top cream of the party. The National Executive, the National Council, constituency chairman, regional chairman, and all that. And that is the number they are required to vote to pick 5 to go to the main delegates of the 210,000 people. So we are very familiar with the grounds. And I'm saying that my interaction so far in the 3 months that I've been here, that you don't hear from me except this public lecture I gave at UDS, has been very fruitful. They appreciate the work that I've done for this government. They appreciate my contribution to this party. And I'm very confident that certainly the delegates will look at me very favorably.
The lecture was at UPSA, isn't it?
Yes.
Or you did one at the UDA?
No. This is the University of Professional Studies in Accra.
Oh, okay.
I decided to share my vision for this country with the youth because they will be the biggest beneficiaries. And to do that, I had to do it in the context of the university environment. And therefore, we decided to go to UPSA, which has the biggest auditorium in Accra, to be able to share my vision. And I'm glad I did because the message went down very well.
I thought you also give those people in the northern part of the country the benefit to also get such a lecture.
Definitely. Once we start, once we reach the northern region with our main campaign, I have a standing invitation to give a lecture there. And not only that, I also have been invited by the alumni of Mensa Sabaho, where I went to at the University of Ghana to give the anniversary lecture, following what I said at UPSA. So these invitations are coming. I have indications also that the University in Kumasi, also the faculty there are also very interested to come and share this vision with them. See, the vision is it sounds very common, but it's very visionary in the sense that the ordinary things that we take for granted are what will let us out of the clutches of the international donor community and debtors. We've been financing our development with debt right from the beginning. And anytime we borrow, we fall down, we go to IMF. We've been to the IMF 17 times since independence, 66 years, 17 times. And as we speak, we are in the clutches of the IMF. I'm saying that if you continue to finance our development with debt, it will continue and continue and continue. We were hoping that gold and minerals would get us out of it. It hasn't. Ghana is one of the, in fact, the last few years, we've been the biggest producer of gold, past South Africa, and yet we are in the clutches of the IMF. Obuasi has been there for more than 120 years, commercial mining, and we are still in the hands of the IMF. When President Akufo announced that we've discovered oil, everybody thought that oil was going to get us out of the place. It hasn't. In fact, oil production in the last few years has been falling. So what we have, and we have such huge potential, is agriculture, is the soil that you are sitting on now. That is what we do, and that is my vision. Because with 6 years of experience, I realized two things. We have good soil, water, and all the physical endowments, but we also have a very hard-working core of smallholder farmers that you give 2.6 cedis in subsidy and is able to produce 48.5 cedis of produce. You can't get any better return than that. So I'm saying that we need to prioritize agriculture in terms of public allocation of resources. Our budgets to prioritize agriculture, and if we do that, the farmers will be able to produce so much for export and for our food security that we wouldn't need to go and borrow money to finance that source, agricultural resources generated through prioritizing our budgets and so on, should be able to fund all our development activities, including industrialization, including education, including health, infrastructure, motorways, roads, and all of that. We should be able to generate enough. And I've given you the example. Cote d'Ivoire with 5 crops of coffee, cocoa, cashew, rubber, and oil palm are generating $7-8 billion a year. The same 5 crops in Ghana gives us less than 2 billion. And yet we have more land, better land, and so on and so forth. So this is why as a minister, I came up with the idea of a Tree Crop Development Authority, which is now lodged in Parliament, 10-Act-1010-2019, and then the body itself was inaugurated, headquartered in Kumasi by the President in 2020. The only problem with that is that the seed fund that is required for them to really take off, as typically, is being short. That out of $5 billion every year for 3 years, that's 3 years, so $15 million. For them to really take off, as we speak, they are in their 3rd year, and only $1.3 million has been disbursed to them. It really shows you illustrates what I'm talking about. And we need to, an establishment which potentially can give you between $6 to $12 billion a year to get started with just $15 million. And in just 3 years, that's just 3 years. The rest of it, they will borrow on their balance sheet and like cocoa board and so on. They don't need the budget anymore. And yet, only 1.3 million has been disbursed in the 3rd year. So how do you expect such an organization to take off? So
what is the implication of this?
The implication is that the institution is not taking off the way it's designed to do. Because the figure of 5 million is based on a feasibility study. There's a professional work done by experts to say that if you want this organization to take off and produce in 7-8 years after implementation, the 6 to $12 billion, then you need to invest just 15 million the first 3 years. That's all. And yet, we have only 25%, a quarter of what is required. So what $1.3 million can do? It's not the same as what $15 million can do.
Sure.
So when I talk about prioritizing agriculture, this is a classic example.
Honorable, for 6 years, what are some of the exciting things, the achievements you've achieved?
The exciting things, you see, the most exciting for me is the opportunity to deal with the poorest in society, who happen to be smallholder farmers, that have been able to impact their lives, to increase their incomes and their circumstance, their living situation, that they can now afford some lives luxury from the additional production that they have been able to achieve through the application of subsidized seed and fertilizer, and then through that, the knock-on effect in other crop sectors and so on. So I'm very, for me, that's the most important. And also, it's something that I knew in economics, we call it supply elasticity.
Oh.
I mean, from the 1950s, you have John Robinson from Cambridge University, a professor who came and did studies in Ghana with cocoa farmers and rice farmers in Abakaliki in eastern Nigeria, which studies show that farmers, smallholder farmers, actually respond to price incentives. That one we've known from our undergraduate days. The literature is there. But to actually have a direct link, direct interaction with them, working with these farmers, and then seeing it being demonstrated in a very strong way is something where I find very, very fascinating. As an academic, I find it very, very interesting. And I see that as a hidden resource that all these years, Ghana will close our eyes to it. And yet, the evidence is there. Smallholder agriculture, they are the ones who have made a world-class industry like cocoa in Ghana for all these years. Since Fernando Po, the question brought the beans from Fernando Po to the hills of Okapim, cocoa has been a major backbone of the economy. Everybody in this country still survives or has been impacted by cocoa. And it's not by big, large-scale farmers. It's by these small farmers, 2-3 hectares maximum. So why can't we encourage them to do more? I mean, since the Act of 1947, which created Cocoa Board, there has not been the creation of one commodity authority after that. Wow. Until we came into office, and we've created the Tree Crop Development Authority with 6 crops. Okay, so that is even having created it by law and by the statutes and so on, it's still creeping because of lack of support.
And there's also a grain development. That is
the Grain Development Authority. See, I intended to create 4 development authorities and 1 agricultural credit institution.
Wow.
The 4 were the Grain Development Authority, which is now out of Parliament, is struggling to establish itself because of lack of adequate resources. Then the Grain Development Authority, which is in Parliament, then referred to the Committee on Food, Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs. It has been lying there for 9 months now. So it shows you the priority that this Parliament gives to agriculture, not only the executive, but also Parliament. And then there are 2 on my desk that I left. And I hope the person who's come to replace me, Honorable Champon, will take them up. Poultry Development Authority and the Horticultural Development Authority. Those 2 were almost ready to go to cabinet. But there's a legislation that we are proposing for the acute shortage of agricultural credit in this country, which should complement what government is doing. The banks in this country are shying seriously away from agriculture. And without agricultural credit, no matter what government does, the full impact cannot be felt. So after persuasion, I've been talking to the banks all these 6 years, and there's only 3.1% of loanable funds go to agriculture, which is woefully inadequate. So we are saying that we are going to resort to legislation to force the banks to lend to agriculture, just like Morocco, India, and other countries did and succeeded. So that is a legislation, a draft, which is with cabinet before I left.
I think it's so because of the risks they say that comes with agriculture, because we depend mostly on rain-fed.
Yeah, but what about the value addition, the processors? The processors, soya processors and others, they're all crying. They don't get support from the banks. So it's a very serious problem, and we need to tackle it. And I think that legislation will help them to solve that problem.